So, hi,
Yeah.
folks. I'm very, very pleased, as always, to welcome the legendary Richard Inman. A man who's, his oratorial skills are renowned throughout the world and everything. And it's great for me just to catch up and find out exactly what's going on in relation to TR and what he thinks about the political scene and everything else. So, first of all, I need to ask Richard, did you have a good New Year? Are you one of these people that does all of that, or don't you care?
Well, do you know what? I made my New Year's resolution was not to check WhatsApp until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was doing really, really well, Liam, and then Elon happened,
Yes, yes.
and that was it. My phone blew up, Twitter blew up, and I was like,
Yeah.
"We'll do this. We'll do this another week. We'll do this another week." So that was the only resolution I had. To be fair, I haven't had a drink since New Year's either. So on that,
Did
and
you
that
go
wasn't
out?
actually. Yeah, it wasn't me saying I'm not going to drink anymore. It was just I just haven't had a drink since New Year's and didn't really drink that much on New Year's Eve either. So it's kind of maybe it's a little bit of temperance. I did about 20 years of temperance. Maybe I need to start doing that again, Liam.
Did you go out? I mean, does it mean anything to you anymore, or just you?
No, not. Do you know what? I mean, the thing is, we used to have sort of family parties and stuff. And, when I was a kid, I used to go to the pub but the big thing for me is Christmas, not really New Year. New Year's a bit of a Scottish thing. And I have a love-hate relationship with the Scottish for lots of reasons.
Well, look, I want to catch up on everything because you're the man in the know, and people on my channel will want to know. So, have you visited Woodhill, Tommy, or
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
are
Yeah.
you
I went to see.
restricted? Are you restricted in what you say? And did you have to do a gagging order, or what?
No, no. Well, the gagging order came in after I did my broadcast from the steps of Woodhill Prison when I came out. So
Yeah.
I could be. I think me and Dan Wotton might have a little bit to do with that because Dan did about an hour long special on Tommy, and I did one at the very jaws of Woodhill Prison with the sign in the background. So no doubt they're a little bit upset about that, but who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, he shouldn't be in prison anyway. So it's an absolute liberty. And the gagging order, Danny Roscoe was in there yesterday with another friend of mine. And of course, Tommy was absolutely euphoric. According to the guys yesterday, he was like literally bouncing around the room like Tigger, because because of what Elon had basically done with Mr. Farage. So
Well,
it's all been a high drama and high comedy. But no, and Danny came out of the prison gagging order in hand and just ripped it up on camera and said, "That's what you can do with your gagging order. I'm going live on tomorrow night at 9 o'clock to deliberately break the gagging order."
my God. So what will happen? Will he get arrested for doing that, is there a punishment? What's the scenario with that?
Well, Danny's the test case, isn't he?
Yes. Brave man, brave man.
And
Going.
I think what they'll probably do, they'll probably just say, right, you're not coming back in. You broke it last time. I would imagine. I don't see how they can legally enforce that. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we're not, it's not like we're from the Guardian or the Times or the BBC. We're just guys that sit in front of phones and talk, right? So, you know what I mean? So if we haven't got the freedom to do that anymore, when we go and see a mate who's in prison for nothing,
Yes.
then it says a lot about the state of the nation. And I mean, we'll talk about that. The reality is we're in a very, very serious situation,
Yeah.
and um, I think what's happening at the minute will determine the future of our country for 1,000 years.
Yeah, I would say it's going to go one way or the other, isn't it? It really is. So with Tommy, is he's happy because of Elon? But how many months has he done? How many has he got to go?
Oh, well, he went in the day before the demo. So when was that? Demo was 26th, 25th of October. He was arrested, remanded. He hasn't been out since.
No.
He's held in solitary. He did it. He phoned, I think, his wife. Yeah, it was his. He phoned his wife on, I think, Thursday or Friday, and she recorded it.
Yes.
And they put that recording out. I'm not sure if you heard it, Liam,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I found it harrowing, to be honest with you. As a friend of his, I found that harrowing, and I thought, okay, he's putting on a brave face, but he obviously, and all the risks of going into a DCAT prison, he wants to go into a DCAT prison with all the benefits of that as well.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think the state are torturing him. I think it's, there's a thing called cruel and unusual punishment, and I think that's what they're doing to Tommy. Being locked up for 21 hours a day on your own
Yeah.
is not a joke.
No,
It's
it's
not
funny. I was
funny.
speaking to someone else today who'd done solitary for 3 months, and I mean it's absolutely when you think about it, you're just locked in this room, and
Yeah,
you can't come out apart from you might get the 2 or 3 hours, but 21 hours, even if you've got the TV and you can write the letters and all that, I mean it's pretty horrific, isn't it?
it's absolutely barbaric.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I know. Interestingly enough, there's a Pentecostal pastor goes and sees him on a Monday, and he's doing Bible study, which I think is really good. Because whether he ever becomes a Christian and believes it all or not is one thing, but what it will do is give Tommy a massive grounding in the cultural inheritance of our nation and why we think like we think and why we do the things we do. Because at the end of the day, I don't know whether you believe or not, Liam, and it's not any of my business, but what can't be denied is that the whole of our country's heritage and culture comes from the Bible, and
That's true.
that's just the way it is. And whether people like to accept that or not, most don't these days because I think it's cool not to.
Yeah.
But it shows a complete ignorance of history. So the fact that he's doing that, I think, is a very healthy thing because it's not going to do him any harm. Put it that way, Liam. Actually,
No, it's
reading the
about
foundational doc. Yeah, exactly. Because that's really the foundational document of our state.
yeah.
And I think that's that's the thing. So from that point of view, he's doing that. He's keeping himself very fit, which is great.
Yes.
I mean, he's running a lot when he's got 3 hours a day in the gym,
That's
right? Now, I'll be honest with you, the only problem, I think the big problem he's got is his diet because he won't eat the prison food because he doesn't trust it because he
yes.
doesn't know who's making it. So it'd
Yes.
be very easy for some scumbag to poison him, or even the state for that matter. So
Yeah.
he's living on tins of tuna. I don't know how balanced his diet is. I didn't really go into a lot of detail, and I'm not a nutritionist, so I didn't want to sit there and give him dietary advice when I'm having a prison visit with him. He was in good spirits when I met him, and this was, I think it was 5th of December. It was just before Christmas.
What's it like
Uh,
actually the whole process of going into the prison? Are you searched? How strict is it all?
it is the security is crazy. So I mean, when I was in the military, I guarded the Crumlin Road prison in Belfast, which is a high security prison full of terrorists. I guarded the Maze prison as it was then, which again was a high security prison full of terrorists.
Yeah.
And the security in this prison is stricter than that.
Yeah,
I
it's
kid you not.
interesting because I did a little piece outside the prison because it's not that far from me, and it,
Yeah,
it looks sort of like almost like a quite nice building, doesn't it, and stuff like that. But I've never been in, so what's it like inside?
I think we went through about 10 doors to get to Tommy. It's very oppressive.
Yeah,
You're going through locked door after locked door after locked door. You sit down, you get searched by a search dog. I don't know if that's normal because I mean, to be honest, it's the first time I've ever visited anyone in prison. I
right.
think it's the first time I've done a prison visit. So yeah, the whole thing it's quite oppressive and it's quite sinister. And he's in there all the time. I found it oppressive and sinister just walking in as a visitor, but he's in that environment all the time. It's not a natural environment. It's
No,
not healthy. And let's get it right, Liam. He shouldn't be in there.
no, it's a
You
civil
know,
thing, isn't it? I mean, it's a civil matter.
it's not even just that it's a civil matter. I mean, to me, as far as I know, no journalist has been to prison for contempt apart from Tommy Robinson since the 1940s, as far as I know,
Yeah.
since the Second World War. Now, please fact check me on that
No,
because it's just that I picked
you're totally
up,
right. You are.
it's something I picked up along the way. I don't know if it's true, but if that's true, then again, you've got to say one thing. Well, he is a political prisoner.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it seems every time Tommy's getting a bit of steam, every time things are going well, every time he's building a movement, they come in and they find some reason to lock him up.
Yeah.
And because he's got previous convictions and previous time in prison, it makes it so much easier for them.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that once he comes out, I mean, look, he's got Elon Musk on his side, he's got Geert Wilders on his side, he's got loads and loads of politicians, apart from the British ones, because they're too cowardly to
Yes.
stand up and say anything in his defence. The only man who's doing any advocacy about his situation in prison that I can see is Ben Habib. He's the
Yes.
only one. I think Nick Tenconi's
Just
probably as well, but
do you think there's any route back for him into reform or anything? Because I mean, I've filmed him quite a lot. I've sort of interviewed him and done bits and pieces. I think he's great, very intelligent, knows his subject, and very good. Is there a way back in for him somewhere?
I hope so. Now, you see, I'll be honest with you, Liam. I'll be brutally honest with you. I think there's something very dark and very wrong at the heart of reform. I really do. I think reform is an establishment stitch up. I think the establishment know that the game's up. I think reformers, I think Farage has been planted in there to be the continuity candidate. And it's not an insurgent party. Look at the rhetoric. I mean, I don't know if you saw the interview he did with Winston Marshall, Farage's interview with Winston Marshall, where he was saying we can't fight against Islam. It's just going to take over, and that's just the way it is. Well, do you know what? That's what the deep state and the government have been saying for years. Mm-hmm. In the background. They haven't been letting the public know. I suppose at least Farage has been honest with the public. But what they said is we can't do anything about it. We've let them all in. It's going to be an Islamic State by 2050. Tough luck, guys. We'll be dead anyway, and we don't really care. That's the reality of what we're facing. Because most of these rats don't even have kids, or they can afford to immigrate when it all comes on top. So and I think one of the reasons that Tommy is in prison, one of the reasons that insurgent parties like For Britain and now UKIP are always been kicked about and basically demonized, is because they're the only parties that are dealing with the big. There's three issues facing our country politically. There's globalism, which is the big money men, the Tory party. They want to do business on a global scale. They want to have, they don't care whether the ships are built in China or India, or the steel comes from India or the steel comes from China. They don't care. So they don't care about destroying British heavy industry. That's been going on since Thatcher's days, right? That's globalism, right? Then the second one is the cousin of globalism, which is global communism or international socialism. And that's what we've got running the country at the minute, Liam. We've got international socialists running the country, as opposed to, people talk about Nazis all the time. Well, Nazis were national socialists. What we've got is international socialists who actually, as disgusting and vile as the Nazis were, the international socialists have probably outkilled the Nazis by at least 100 million. Mm-hmm. So, since they started their little campaign in Russia in whenever it was.
Sorry to interrupt, Richard. Is that there'll be a lot of viewers out there, especially like on my channel and who support me, who are reform voters, and I'm being devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
So do you feel that the sort of fracturing of everybody, the one hope, I suppose, for people out there will be thinking that we've all got to get behind reform because they're the only party that are going to get in, whereas UKIP aren't going to get in, and this, that, and the other. And so, is it better, even if they're not perfect, that the support goes that way?
I think we've got the next 5 years to save our country, and if we don't get it right this next election, we're going to be either looking at forever socialism been taken over by Islamism, socialism hybrid, and if we don't change things in the next 5 years, and I mean change things radically. My fear is that reform is not what it's pretending to be. Okay. It's not the great insurgent party. We're under a socialist regime at the minute, and we have actually been under a socialist regime since the times of Tony Blair, because the Tories were Tories in name only, Tinos, Tories in name only. Yeah. They were not conservative in any way, shape, or form. Call Me Dave was not a conservative. Neither was Boris, neither was May, neither was Rishi. They're all wrong uns, right? So we've been under the Uni Party for a long time. And my fear is that the Reform Party is going to be a continuation of the Uni Party. It will do some things that will make people happy in the first little while, but it is not going to be the answer. And I think because obviously what you want for the viewers is an answer. And I think the answer is this. As you know about the pledge, we've been talking about the pledge a lot, and again, I'd encourage people just go and have a look at the pledge. The website is thepledge.org.uk. I don't know if you can put that in the description of the video, Lynn. Thepledge.org.uk. Dive onto that, have a look at it. If you like it, sign it. We want to build the pledge into a really strong, mailing list, because once we've got that, we can then hold all these politicians to account. Because we can go and say, have you signed the pledge? Do you like the pledge? What about it? So the way we see the pledge is the pledge kind of sits above everything. Mm-hmm. And the political parties, because the pledge is the ideology that will actually save the country. Mm-hmm. And the political parties sit beneath that. Now, we've got about 60,000 people have already signed the pledge. I think I counted today, 62,000 something have signed the pledge. We haven't spent the money on promoting it, a penny on promoting it. So we've got about a third of what Reform have got as members. People have actually signed the pledge already. So if we if we can push that, we could probably get that up to about 1 million people. Then what we can do is we can go to the political parties, we can go to UKIP, we can go to Reform, we can go to the Conservative Party and say, will your MP sign this? Or go to the individual MPs, will you sign this document? And if they don't, we'll obviously then have to try and find candidates that will sign that document. And so it kind of flips the whole political system on its head, and it means that the people genuinely have the power. So Elon's absolutely right about Nigel Farage. He hasn't got what it takes to lead, well, not even lead the Reform Party. Let's get it right, Liam. What we need someone who can lead the country. We need someone who can be Prime Minister. And Nigel Farage, for a lot of different reasons, partly because of and Ben Habib will have told you all about this when you spoke to Ben. You know, he hasn't democratized the party. He said he was going to do it. He hasn't done it. His immigration policy has been one in, one out. As far as I know, Reform have not shied away, moved away from that. The only thing he's had said that's been positive, that he's going to deport every single illegal immigrant. Great, we'll give him one tick on the box for that. He's going to deal with net zero. Great, we're happy with that. But I think the problem is, Liam, there's so much more that needs to be done. The Nigel show,
Richard, to maybe get a bit of what you want, and as I say, I'm only, I'm playing devil's advocate here, to get a bit of what you want, because if you go too far with people, you're not going to drag that middle ground of people with you, and maybe it's best to, it's almost like get Nigel in and then maybe progress it further after. You could depose him afterwards, or do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. But I worry
yes,
that
Liam, I get it.
That we suddenly we all go out and vote for UKIP, and then they, and I like the guy who runs UKIP and stuff. But do we lose that way because we're fractured, and Reform is the only big party at the moment?
Well, I think here's the thing, right? Apart from anything else, even for democracy to be healthy, it's good to have parties like UKIP saying you're not radical enough. Because I mean, I'm on the NEC of UKIP, on the board of UKIP, so I've got to give full disclosure. So I've got an idea what the policies are, what's happening there, and I think UKIP's job is to drag Reform to the right in the same way that UKIP's job in days past was to drag the Conservative Party to the right, because and Ben Habib, that's Ben Habib's job as well. So there's a lot in play. There's a lot of plate spinning. Let's get it right. I mean, Elon just came into the classroom and turned all the desks over yesterday and just walked out.
I mean, Nigel must be.
He was that kid. Oh, he was that kid that came into the class, just stuck it on someone and walked straight out the class. I mean, that's what he did. He went up to the biggest, toughest guy in the class and just knocked him clean out.
Yeah.
So I think I think
Tommy must be elated by that whole thing.
Oh, no idea. Tommy thinks it's fantastic.
And I did see an interview with, is it Elon's dad, who was saying that Tommy should be the next prime minister and stuff like that.
Oh, man. I mean, look, listen, I mean, the way things are, I think what people have got to realize as well, Tommy is an extremely intelligent man. We all know that. With anyone that's met him knows he's intelligent. He's also got a lot of emotional intelligence. He's also a really nice guy.
Yes.
Listen, he's had problems. I mean, and we all know he's had problems, Liam. And, but the reality is, haven't we all? So he's got feet of clay. He is going to be a different man when he comes out of prison, because that amount of time in solitude. Well, I worry, but this is why I think it's important that he reads a lot, that he studies, that he prays, meditates, does things to keep his physical and mental health and his spiritual health good, because all of those things are vitally important. Obviously, we're having an event on the 1st of February, which, obviously, I'm sure you'll be there, Liam. If anyone's watching this, book your tickets for Central London. We don't know exactly what route we're going to be going. We've got a good idea of where we're going to be going, but we don't know where. 1st of February, it's going to be a big one, because a lot of people are not happy with this government. Yes. And this is a way to peacefully and within the law, and, I'm not going to say respectfully, because we don't have to respect these people, but peacefully and within the law, we can vent our anxieties and anger about what's happening with the political prisoners, what's happening with Tommy, what's happening with the grooming, what they're doing with the farming, net zero, whatever it is that annoys you.
Yeah.
Come on the 1st of February. Now, the primary reason for the 1st of February is about the political prisoners and Tommy and the conditions he's been held in.
Yes.
However, I'm sure people will be talking about net zero, talking about farming, talking about specifically the grooming, which is once again,
I know.
we've been back. I mean, Liam, when were we in Telford? What was that? 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
So I think all these things, it's almost like everything's coming together. I mean, I saw Gert Wilders tweeted a photograph of me, Tommy, and a few other people that were involved in the making of that film, um, out in out in the Netherlands in 2018,
Mhm.
when Gert was, and Gert was like one MP
Yes.
in the Parliament then, and this is what we've got to think. Gert was one MP,
Mhm.
and he has stayed absolutely staunch
Yes.
on his beliefs. What's happening in our country? Our freedoms are getting whittled away, and I think we've got getting more radical, Liam. You
Mhm.
know, I kind of went through a phase there where I calmed down a bit. This year I'm going to be 10 times more radical than I was last year.
Yeah.
I'm going to be an absolute maniac.
Yeah, when I'm thinking of Richard, I think you're getting more extreme, but I really understand it because it's so frustrating what's going on. I just wonder, and I have a major problem with this, that the majority of British people don't stand up. And there is one of the reasons that Tommy's so good is because he does stand up. But they don't really stand up until their backs are right against the wall, and maybe you're dragging them too fast. I mean, they're not like the French who go out. I love the French who just, farmers who spray everything everywhere, and be absolutely brilliant. I just think, how many people stand up in this country?
Well, the problem we got, Liam. How patient do we have to be?
Mhm.
You know, we've tried cajoling people and saying, well, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. And look, I'm not talking about doing anything revolutionary. I'm
No,
talking about getting people to register to vote, to
yeah,
sign the pledge, become politically active, come to events, these great events where we're bringing people together to enjoy each other's company and to promote British culture. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about doing anything crazy. I'm
Mhm.
just talking about let's take our country back. And Nick Tinconi said it very well. He says, in 5 years' time, we're voting our way out of this. The only way we can do this is through the ballot box.
Yeah,
And and the thing is as well, Liam, when you look at what Starmer's trying to do, he's giving votes to 16-year-olds, right?
yeah.
They're going to be he bet his bet is they're going to be left leaning. I'm not so sure they will be left leaning because
No, it's
they're not.
changing. Yeah, it's changing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's changing. But what he's also going to do, he's going to give the vote to 5 million asylum seekers,
yeah, yeah.
right? That's what he's talking about doing. Now, if he does that, we're in big trouble
Yeah.
because this is why I'm saying reform is not the total answer.
Mhm.
I'm not saying reform's not part of the answer. I'm saying it's not the total answer. I'm saying UKIP is definitely part of the answer. Reform is part of the answer, and probably the right-wing Tories are part of the answer, overseen by the wise old men. You'd have to find out who those wise old men are. Maybe it's Dominic Cummings.
Yeah.
People think he's mad, but we need mad men at the minute, and we need bad men at the minute. People who don't care, who are willing to put whatever they need to put on the line
Mhm.
to do what needs to be done. And again, I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about politically and the flack that they're going to take. I mean, my business has suffered massively this year because of what I do.
Yes.
I've been cancelled. I've had people, that I did business for 20 years say they won't do business with me anymore for no other reason, not because my business model is not good, but
Mhm.
because they're more interested in politics than they are in actually getting a good service. So that's the sort of craziness that we're dealing with, out there at the minute. And a lot of people, when they get that sort of pushback, they fold straight away. Well, I learned from
Right.
Tommy, and this I did learn this from Tommy. When someone punches you in the face,
Mhm.
you headbutt them, you kick them in the bollocks, and you punch them in the head 10 times back.
Yeah.
And again, I'm talking metaphorically. I'm not talking about being violent, but I'm talking if the state comes after you, or if people are demonizing you because of your political or religious beliefs, you push back against them twice as hard. And that's what they've done in America. I mean, Trump had Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
This is the way Steve Bannon's operated. He says, "Up yours, we're going for it. We're not going to stop. If you get in the way, we're gonna run you over the political steamroller until we get what we want to do." So yes, you have to bring the middle ground with you, but the reality is, I think the middle ground are starting to see what a bad state the country's in,
Mhm.
and the more you're paying through the nose for driving your car, the more you're paying for your home heating, the more you're being told you can't say this or you can't say that. the more people will wake up. And if you look at what happened on that last event, Liam, I mean, you were there.
Yeah.
So I actually thought, okay, it's like, Tommy just got to prison. A whole lot of people are going to cancel. It's going to be difficult. A lot of people are going to be angry. It's going to be a very difficult event. What was it like?
Yeah, it was great. Great.
Yeah.
Peaceful.
So now
Yeah.
I don't know what the 1st of February is going to be like, but Tommy's telling me that people are telling him the reason we're doing the 1st of February is because people were telling Tommy, when are we going again?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the people were saying.
And it's
Now,
also remembering, which they did last time as well, remembering people like Peter Lynch, who have been a complete victim of this government.
yeah. Well, this is. I mean, look. Here's the thing, Liam, and again, I'd never really looked at socialism until very recently. And the more I read about it, and the more I read about what people like Lenin and Trotsky and obviously Stalin. I mean, Stalin. All the socialists say, well, Stalin wasn't really a socialist, but we like Lenin and Trotsky. Well, really, Lenin killed 12 million people. He said we will exterminate. We will fill the streets with blood. I'm paraphrasing. He used we will terrorize people. That was what Lenin was about, and he's meant to be the moderate communist, the moderate Bolshevik, the moderate socialist. So what we've got running our country, and if you look at Stalin, I was going to say Stalin, Keir Stalin. If you look at Keir Stalin, he's got dead eyes. He's a soulless man. I actually think he's psychopathic and evil. Yeah. And I would, I hope we win.
Yes.
And I believe we will win. It's not even, we have to win, because if we don't win, the country is ruined, and all the generations to come after us will never forgive us for messing this up. And that's why I'm frustrated with Nigel. I'm frustrated with the Reform Party. And because I don't, at the heart of it, trust them to do what needs to be done, it worries me. And remember this, Liam, they alienated us. Tommy had no intention of joining the Reform Party.
No.
He's doing his journalism. He's doing the cultural thing. At the minute, he's doing time in prison. He's not going to join the Reform Party tomorrow. He's no intention of that.
No.
But what Farage has done in alienating Tommy, he's alienated millions of British people.
Yeah.
Tommy,
I think he should have just been quiet about it. He should have just not commented about it, or the alternative is to support him, which he's never going to do that. I just don't.
No, he's never going to do that. He's an elitist snob, and I have no time for him. And I can't be bothered even, playing the silly little game. Oh, Nigel might change when he gets in power. Really? How many politicians have done that? Yes, they've normally changed. They've normally promised all sorts of stuff and not fulfilled it when they've got into power. So I think we need to turn over the tables. Elon's obviously done what he's done. And again, look, Elon Musk is not, we can't rely on Elon Musk. And this is where I do agree with Reformer to a certain extent. We can't rely on Elon Musk to save the UK. The only people that can save the UK are me and you, Liam, and the millions of other people that need to get behind the movement. And this is why the Uniting the Kingdom movement is so important, why the pledge is so important, because what we've got with the pledge, we've got an ideology. With the Uniting the Kingdom movement, we've got a way of bringing people together to make friends, to build associations, to build groups that can be scattered all over the country. And then when we have a political vehicle or vehicles that we can trust, then we can say, right, there we go, vote for them, vote for them, vote for them. And so I think there's a few things going on in the country at the minute. There's a lot of excitement around reform, and I get that. People are buzzing about it. But the problem is, Liam, we know Nigel, because we've been here before. We know how the book ends. We were here in 2018. We saw what happened with UKIP. We saw what happened with the Brexit Party. So Nigel's got a lot of questions to answer. And so that's where I'm at on the political front.
Prefer him in than what we've got at the moment, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, of course. Of course, yes, absolutely. I mean, the reality is anything is better than this lot.
Yes.
But my big fear is, Liam, that we're not getting what we think we're getting.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So we get Nigel. He turns out to be a complete damp squib. I mean, can you imagine? Okay, here's a scenario, right? Nigel Farage, what is he, 62, 63, smokes a lot, he drinks a lot. Sooner or later, he's going to keel over or he's going to get sick, right? That's just a fact of life, unless he's got the constitution of an ox. Yes. Just, medical science and age would tell us that if you smoke and drink for 40 years or whatever it is he's been doing it,
Yeah.
sooner or later, your body's going to break down.
Yeah.
Okay. So unless you're Winston Churchill, but
Yeah.
so if he becomes prime minister, he's going to be about 66 when he becomes prime minister.
Yes.
He's not going to be as sharp as he is now. He will have to hand over the reins sooner or later. And you know what political parties are like. There'll be all sorts of internal squabbles. There's something smells very, very off about it all, Liam, and that's my problem with it. And I'm not actually very conspiratorial. I mean, I've very little time for conspiracy theories, but all I'm looking at is the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And the evidence is we've got Richard Tice, who I think is the deputy leader, right?
Yes.
I don't want anything to do with that lot. Mm-hmm. We don't want that lot. We don't need them. Our parties, we've got 160,000 members, right? And then we've got Zia Youssef, axing Gwaine and axing this one and that one. He's the executioner. He's the hitman for Nigel Farage, right? And then of course we've got Nigel himself, who's saying, well, we can't beat Islam. We won't win. We won't win.
Any form of optimism within you, or do you think it's just getting worse and worse and worse?
No, I've loads of. I'm very optimistic because I think we can do it, but people have got to wake up and not just put all the trust in reform. Mm-hmm. Reform has to be called to, Ben Habib, UKIP, Tenkoni, me, other people. Maybe it's our job, and Tommy. Maybe it's our job is to constantly be sticking on reform. What about this? What about this? What about this? What's your policy on this? What happens if this happens? Mm-hmm. So we're constantly, calling them to account.
As a pressure group, I think it's good to be pushing them. Absolutely. I just worry what condition Tommy's going to come out in. I saw him come out of Belmarsh, and he was in a shocking state after that time. I don't know how long he was in for that time, but I mean,
that was 9 weeks.
Yeah.
9 weeks in solitary.
Yeah, and he's doing
this one's 9 months. This one's 9 months.
Yeah.
And listen, I mean, I don't know when this is going to go out, Liam, but it's vital that people write to him. Absolutely vital that people write to him. It's vital that people write to their MPs and keep writing to your MPs. Bug the life out of your MPs. Yeah. I mean, the fact that we've got a Labour government just fills me with absolute horror, to be honest with you, Liam. I mean,
why do people vote Labour? I mean, there cannot be anything now from what we've seen, and yet they still are like 25% in the polls. The latest polls, they're like 25. They've dropped hugely. But I mean, who are the people who are still voting for them?
Well, I mean, they're the same people that cancel me. They're my clients in my business that cancel me because I'm standing with Tommy Robinson. Yeah. That's the people that, and these are middle class educated people. I mean, I don't know what they're educated in, but I think they all get lobotomies when they get to university now. They get the prefrontal cortex, ripped out, and they're left wandering around like zombies for the rest of their lives. But I mean, who knows, Liam? I think it's the middle class vote Labour. It's a trendy thing to vote Labour. It's a trendy thing to be anti-Israel. It's a trendy thing to think you should be able to take your kid to the doctors and have them changed from a boy to a girl. This is the fashionable thing to do for that lunatic middle class set that.
Does Trump give you hope with him coming in soon?
Yeah, listen, I mean, all of this gives me hope, Liam. My thing is, I am actually, believe it or not, very if I didn't think we could win this, I wouldn't do it because there's no point. I'd just go, right, I'm going to try and delete all my internet history. I'll try and do my business. I'll forget about doing the activism. It's cost me so much. I can't be bothered with it anymore. We're not going to win, so there's no point in doing it. I believe we can win. Yes. But this is why I'm so frustrated. When I'm looking at certain people in political parties, I'm going, and by the way, I don't want to be a leader of any political party. So I'm kind of,
why not?
No,
why not?
I think one, because why don't I want to be a leader of a political party? I think my job,
everybody flips round,
Yeah, well, I think my job at the minute is to look at what's out there and go, well, I see this, I see this, I see this. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. And almost like an Old Testament prophet, you're saying you've got to sort this out. You've got to, your voice crying in the wilderness. You've got to. This is the threat. This is the threat. And I think we can be very effective doing that. And there are some there are some absolutely superb people out there. Ben Habib is absolutely superb.
Yeah.
Nick's doing a great job with UKIP. Rupert Lowe
Yes,
is superb in reform. So so there is hope.
yeah.
But I just think Elon's right. Nigel doesn't have what it takes.
It's
You know.
interesting how that's just changed over the last few weeks. Now, I'm going to ask you a personal question. How badly is it affecting you personally, sort of being in this, having these opinions? You say it's affecting your business, emotionally. I mean, what are the sacrifices you're having to make?
I mean, financially, it's catastrophic. I mean, it is. It's back to the wall stuff, and again, I'm kind of relying on living by faith almost, and just when you think it's all going to come on top, and you're gonna have to close the doors, a check comes in or money comes in, and you go, wow, So
Yeah.
I'm literally living by faith. And look, do you know what? I'm not sweating over it because
No.
at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing is right.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll be honest with you, there's people that have been very generous and have actually supported me financially. And I used to think that was a dreadful thing for
No.
people to give you money, but now because I'm in the situation I'm in where it's a lot more difficult for me to earn a living. And the other thing is I'm so busy doing stuff for the movement. I started at 7 o'clock this morning,
Mhm.
and I stopped doing stuff for the movement. Well, I did a live stream with Paul, so I stopped doing stuff for the movement about 1 o'clock. Did a couple of hours of my own work, and then back to this again. Now,
Yes.
so I'm probably doing about 6 hours a day because what we're trying to do, believe it or not, even though I might sound like I'm negative, I'm talking to people in reform. I'm talking to people in UKIP because obviously I'm in UKIP. I'm
Yeah.
talking to people, that are around Ben. I'm talking to people, in Tommy's team about what's happening with Tommy and so on and so forth. So I'm constantly trying to put all the pieces of the jigsaw together as much as I can with my limited abilities, and try and get people working together. And yes, when I see something going wrong, I'm going to shout from the rooftops, "This is wrong,"
Mhm.
and I'm going to do my best to try and influence in whatever small way I can. But I mean, man, you wish you had the influence of Musk, don't you? He sends one tweet and the whole world goes into
No, I can
meltdown.
just
You know what I mean?
see in a few years' time, you and Elon and Paul are sitting there and having a nice little meal with him and him financing you, Richard. You never know.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw the meme that was going around yesterday. There was a picture of Tommy, and it was an AI generated one. I'm sure Tommy won't be too happy about it. His teeth looked as bad as mine in the in the whatchamacallit, in the meme. But it was like an AI generated picture of Tommy and Elon
Yeah.
sitting having a pint in a pub in London, and at the frosted window, is a picture. I'll send you at the window. There's a picture of Nigel Farage peering in, and being totally ignored by the two guys, which was rather funny. But look, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's a lot can go on and go wrong. I mean, look, I mean, the way things are, you're only one banana skin away from going to prison with this government.
Uh-huh.
I say one thing wrong
Yeah.
on
No, we
on
have
a
to be
video like
careful
this.
on this, even in this
Yeah,
conversation.
absolutely.
I have to look back through it and think, oh, I don't know whether YouTube are going to like that, and you just have to be.
Yeah,
So some bits get edited out, and some bit.
yeah,
But the good thing about it, we'll wind it up in a minute, is that
yeah.
you're such a passionate supporter. So what your message for people is to come out on February the 1st, isn't it? As support.
Yeah, February the 1st is massively important because, look, Tommy will find out because he's got a TV.
Yes.
So he'll, if there's any footage of people at the event, he's going to see it. And
Yeah.
what we don't want it to see is people scrapping. We want to see peaceful,
Yes.
harmonious, kind people, looking after each other, being
Yes.
polite and courteous to the police. Again, our crowd's getting a lot more multiracial, which I think is great.
Yes.
We're not playing the identity politics game. It's just what's happening is people from different communities, Indians,
Yes.
moderate Muslims, ex-Muslims,
Yes.
Iranians, Israelis, Jews, Sikhs,
Yeah.
people from the black community. They're all gravitating to our movement.
Yeah.
And which I think, and that takes work. I mean, it's not like they just magically come. we're inviting people from different communities to come, because what we want to do is get away from this. Oh, well, this is a community. I'm in this community. Or I'm in that community. No, we're all British. We all love this country. And that's the message of it all, Liam. The whole point is uniting the kingdom. And I think that's the power in our movement. It's the power in the pledge. It's about getting rid of the sort of, I was going to say sector. Well, it is really sectarian. Getting rid of the, well, this group's trans, this group's gay, this group's black, this group's Indian, this group's white, this group's Muslim. We want to get rid of all that. We just say we're British,
Yeah.
and we love the country. It's not rocket science, and I think that's a big, that's a big thing as well. But yeah, we're facing a lot of problems. But if I wasn't optimistic, Liam, I wouldn't be doing this.
And also,
there's no
all
point.
those people, they want to be coming along because they're going to see another barnstorming speech from you, Richard, and you can get all of that angst out and just let them have it. Relax, Richard. Pour yourself a drink. You've been working all day. You've been very kind enough to talk to me again. And, we'll see you on the 1st anyway. I'll probably speak to you before anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, Happy New Year, mate, and Happy New Year to the family. And keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is great. I've watched a lot of stuff. I watched Mad Pete. Thoroughly enjoyed Mad Pete, and happy to say that he's. Well, yeah, well, that's it. Well, Mad Pete's standing with us. It's Mad Dogs and Englishmen, isn't it? You know what I mean? So it's you can work out whether I'm a Mad Dog or an Englishman. Yeah. Probably a bit of both. But yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good. We just got to keep the foot on the gas and keep on going. I mean, the thing is, I don't know about you, Liam. When I get up in the morning, I'm up and there's no off switch until I, I'm like this. Literally, when I'm awake, I'm like this. That's why my poor wife doesn't mind me coming and sitting in the shed and doing all this sort of stuff, because she doesn't have to put up with hearing me for half an hour, whatever it is.
Well, it's fantastic to see you again, Richard.
Likewise.
We'll see you first.